Thank you very much, KEXP, for having KEXP for having us. Sorry, got there in the end. It's been, they're a fantastic radio station, and well done, guys, for donating to such a fantastic radio station. Without your support, I don't think they'd be alive. So well played.
It's great to see somebody struggle just as much as we with the name, just those 4 letters. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles Go For That. My name is John, his name is Andy. The rain falls hard on this humdrum town. This town has dragged you down. On that later. It has been bastard raining all day today, and apparently it's not going to stop for about another 4 days. So, with that in mind, what have you got to cheer us up, Andy?
It's hardly a bright song, but it is an interesting one and an interesting performance because it's going to be live from KEXP, which we always enjoy those videos and packages that they present to us. But it is a band that I'm sure you are at least familiar with the existence of. You'd probably be hard pressed not to, given where they're from and where you reside. But the band is Alt J. You're, I'm sure, familiar to some extent with them, right?
Oh yeah, I'm big on the alternative Romanian scene, so yeah, I've heard of them.
Well, the track and the performance thereof is Tessellate by Alt J. So please go off and give this a watch and a listen, and let me know your thoughts on it, pal.
Well done.
She only a fa walks to count her steps. 18 strides and she stops to abide by the law that she herself has set. That 18 steps is one complete set, and before the next 9 right and 9 left. She looks up at the blue and whispers to all of the above, don't let me drown, don't breathe alone, no kicks, no pangs, no broken bones, never let me sink, always feel at home, no sticks, no shanks and no stones, never leave it too late, always enjoy the taste of the great world of parts. As old dogs everywhere bark, it's worth knowing. Like all good fruit, the balance of life is in the ripe and ruin.
It's really nice. Kind of so that old sort of folksy revival thing. It's a little bit, reminds me a bit of Fleet Foxes in a way. It was nice how the 2 voices worked. I think it was a guy on the keyboards, I'm not sure, but I think he was sort of kept straying in and out of falsetto territory, and it just worked really nicely. And they did their own sort of scratching, it's almost buffering, which had a nice rhythmical sort of aspect to it as well. I'm not quite sure it was got completely. There's something about superstition in this, in terms of like there was an 18-step rule that she made up herself, and she was almost like offering up prayers. And there was mention of not drowning, on sinking, and physical harm, and sticks and stones. It sounded almost like offering a prayer before going out on a voyage to sea or something. But yeah, interesting. This your man, the keyboards, has come in, so let's see how this goes.
And ruin. bite the chunks out of me. You're a shark and I'm swimming. My heart still pumps as I bleed. And all your friends call me Snoopy. Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. So to go back to back, let's go, my love, it's very late. The morning comes, let's tessellate.
Okay. So we're now into, I guess, the song proper after that intro. Some interesting stuff there. So the piano sound from the keyboards sounds really nice. In comes the drummer. Lots of like stick action and stick sounding, that, you know, that thin wooden sound rather than, and the odd hit of the drums. Really interesting. The bass player was swinging his pants, but then came in very sort of like pedestrian kind of bass line. And your man started singing. He's got a nice voice, but it does start to stray into that sort of folksy voice where they stretch out words for no apparent, or syllables for no apparent reason. And there's a bit in there which I've caught some of it. He definitely says something about you're a shark and I'm swimming, which sort of carried on that sort of nautical theme. There was a line there about triangles, where, and then it became almost incomprehensible to my ears. It reminded me of like Billy Connolly when he used to talk about the folk singers that he played with, and they do that hey do. Yeah. So let's just bring that back. I've got no idea. Oh, there you go. Swing your pants. Somewhere around there.
You're a shark and I'm swimming. My heart still pumps as I bleed. And all your friends call me Snoopy. Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. So to go back to back, let's go, my love, it's very late. The morning comes, let's tessellate.
I think I got some of it. Triangles are my favourite shape. 3 points with 2 lines meet. Till morning. Let's tessellate. The piano sounded lovely in that, and actually also at that point is the bass has taken the all sort of melodies. He's starting to become a bit more expansive. Sounds really good as well. I'm guessing from the way Let's Tessellate was sort of delivered that he's not talking about retile in the bathroom. So with that line, triangles are my favourite shape, 3 points with 2 lines meet. I wonder if this is about a sort of menage a trois. Yeah, and he's offering to get down and do it, as it were. Yeah, really interesting. It's quite gentle musically, but it's interesting the way it sort of comes along. We'll see how it progresses. Very gentle on his guitar.
And go along my flower and keep along my love.
More that stretching out of the notes. That's nice.
And keep along my heart. 3 guns, 1 goes off. 1's empty, 1's not quick enough. 1 blood, 1 red, 1 green. Search the graves while the cameras spin. Chunks of you rushing down the sea, vibrating on.
I heard something there. Let's just go back a wee bit, sorry. So that section that he just sang there is almost like all the consonants were. So it was just going off, unfortunately. Drums came in almost like gunshots, and then the music came back in with added strings from the keyboard player, which sounded really sweet as well. And then there was this interesting line there. I just have to listen to it again. It's hard work picking up what he's saying.
3 guns, 1 goes off, 1's empty, 1's not quick enough. 1 blood, 1 red, 1 green. Search the graves while the cameras spin.
Okay, 3 guns and 1 goes off. 1's empty. 1's not quick enough. It's definitely. It sounds like a Mexican standoff. I'm sure it refers to the good, the bad, and the ugly when they're Blondie, Tuco, and Angel Eyes are there at the graveyard at the climactic finish. Tuco's gun's empty, as I remember. And Angel Eyes just ain't quick enough to beat Clint. Yeah, why would he refer to this? It is a striking image. Has the threesome gone sour? Doesn't sound great. And yeah, there's 1 burnt, 1 red, 1 something. I'm not quite sure. And it says something about search the graveyards while the camera spins, I think he said. Which again refers to when Tuco's running around the graveyard frantically. And Sergio Leone's really sort of putting the camera to work to show his distress and his frantic endeavour. Really cool bit of cinema. And it's great they've referenced it.
Chunks of you rushing down the sea, vibrating on. I'll knock you up, yes, I'll knock you love away. It's what I said, but it's still home. Trying to my favorite shape, reborn into lies me. So told bad, but I let us go right on. It's very late. The morning dawns. Let's tessellate.
Thank you very much, KEXP, for having KEXP for having KEXP for having us. Sorry, got there in the end. It's been, they're a fantastic radio station, and well done, guys, for donating to such a fantastic radio station. Without your support, I don't think they'd be alive. So well played.
It's great to see somebody struggle just as much as we with the name. Just those 4 letters. Yeah, really interesting. I love that sort of last section as well, where the keyboardist came back doing these haunting harmonies. Added quite a sorrowful sort of tone to it all. I'm not sure about the narrative in this whatsoever. I didn't catch 10% of what he was saying. There's some very striking stuff in there. But I love the overall sound of this. The piano keyboards were lovely. I really enjoyed the drummer. He added some really nice texture to it all without going overboard. And the bass player, his bass line was really, really beautiful as well. It's interesting, you see a lead singer with a guitar, and you think usually the guitar dominates, but it was the most passive of all the instruments there, just gently strumming every now and then. Yeah, I'd love to know what this is about, but overall, I really like the sound of this, and as a live performance, it was really decent as well. like the singer. I think he was just a little bit too affected in the way he sings. But that's just me. It's just a little bit too Americanized. But then because I've got a feeling these guys, they're definitely British. I know they are. I've heard of them. Anyway, I need to know more. The only way to do that is going back and chopping it up with Andy.
All right, so you are back from your experience listening to and watching this KEXP presentation of Tessellate by Alt J. John, what do you have to say for yourself, pal?
So, yeah, this song starts with these sort of indie folk revival vocals, I would call them. So it sort of kind of reminds you a little bit of like Fleet Foxes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The two voices sound really interesting together and work really well. With one, I think it's the keyboard player on with hindsight that's kind of tiptoeing in and out of falsetto every now and then.
Yeah.
And the way to deliver it is almost this, they've almost remixed it themselves. It's almost this buffering delivery of lines that adds a rhythmic nature to it. So it's both intriguing and beautiful. I ain't got a real clue what they're talking about. Something about reference to 18 steps, this self-imposed rule. So I'm getting smacks of like almost superstition in the air. And it feels like a sort of offered prayer to suffer no harm physically. They mention both drowning and sinking. So I'm wondering if it's somebody almost going out to sea and they're, praying to the gods that they don't capsize or throw up over the side or whatever. Anyway, after this sort of profound a cappella shanty, which is kind of acts as an introduction, I was wondering how long this was going to go on for. Beautiful as it was, but I think with this sort of thing, singing like that, probably about 2 minutes is my limit. So after about a minute, piano chords ring out. Well, I say piano chords, piano chord effects, from the keyboard, but it sounds really bright and beautiful. And the drummer gets this stickier sound from his sticks. They're real sort of, almost do little twigs away, really sort of woody sound to it, which is great. And the bass sways with huge potential and then comes in with a very plodding, gentle sort of chorus, which is completely disproportionate to the amount of swing of the pants he was doing. But yeah, the singer then comes in, the main guy in the middle, and he says something about you're a shark and I'm swimming, which kind of continues the nautical imagery in my head anyway. He has a really pleasant voice, but it has a bit of that sort of folksy affectation, little bit sort of Americanized, and many syllables have been stretched out for no apparent reason. But it's fine. It sounds nice. He actually starts to play his guitar in a very moderate manner. It just strums and it continues throughout the whole song. Most of the melody at this point is coming now from the bass, who, from his very sort of plodding start, now has become expanded into something quite lovely. And he sings a line which I catch. I had to rewind on the reaction, and I'm not sure I got it. But he says, "Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. The morning comes. Ooh, let's tessellate." So in between these lines, he slips into. I am always reminded of that sort of Billy Connolly talking about the folk singer voice in the scene when he started out, as a musician. And there's that hoo-dee-hoo, and it's a bit of that. Whereas there's this faintest touch of like an American accent, and all the words in those 2 lines seem like the consonants have been surgically removed. So it's all just vowels running into it. Hey, till morning home. Anyway, the way that Let's Tessellate is delivered isn't, like a sci-fi move, from Blake Seven or something. Let's tessellate. And it's not, I believe, him thinking of, retiling the bathroom either. With the reference before about triangles, I think this is really about a romantic triangle, perhaps a ménage à trois, a ménage à petit pois. The music at this point is still quite gentle, but all the time in the background, the drummer's stick work is chattering away like a ticker tape machine or those old teleprinters on Grandstand where the scores are going in.
I was thinking of like the stock exchange meter.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
same sort of thing. So yeah, it's really nice. Then the singer returns, and this sort of section he goes in for a bit more vocal gurning. It does sing "Go On My Flower," which is only accompanied by really tentative sort of keyboard notes, and then the drum returns like gunshots ringing out, really smacking away. And the main music comes back in with added strings via one of the keyboards, obviously the synthesizer. And then we get another shift in narrative, which is kind of half sung and almost half commentary. Again, I had to rewind because I heard something and I thought, oh, I hear that right. 3 guns, and one goes off, one's empty, one's not quick enough. I'm not sure about the next line. It's like one something, one red, one something else. Grin, I think. Search the graves while the camera spins. So this is clearly, I had to check it, a Mexican standoff, a reference to the good, the bad, and the ugly. The climactic scene in the graveyard with Blondie, Tuco, and Angel Eyes. And also, I think he's talking about the frantic camera work where Tuco is searching for the gold, and the Sergio Leone makes the camera sort of spin round and all this stuff. Really, really great cinema. So yeah, in the shoot off, Angel Eyes pulls. He's not quick enough for Clint, obviously, and poor Tuco's gun's empty anyway. I know it's like in the film he's the ugly, but Blondie, I always refers to him as the rat, which I really like. It was one of my favorite films. So I'm guessing at this point, I mean, I've no idea why he slipped in a bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly, apart from the fact that, again, it's a triangle of sorts, which isn't a great one. And I'm guessing that perhaps this is another way of saying this romantic triangle has gone a little south. Not all peace, love, and harmony. It's interesting who slips that in, though. Very strange, but welcome. I'm now struggling with his pronunciation. When don't I?
I was going to say you're now struggling with it. It sounds like you have throughout, but go on.
It says something about in the next bit about chunks of you and nosh you up, and you still haunt me. Nosh you up is an interesting phrase that can have a couple of meanings. Most commonly it's meant to be eating, but it also can have a sexual connotation as well.
Hello.
Yes, and then we get that bit again, which I believe is now is the chorus, where it repeats again, triangles are my favorite shape, etc. And your man on the keyboards adds a sort of haunting harmony to it as well, which is really nice. And the piano becomes really dominant for a couple of bars. And again, it sounds really nice. The drums is doing all these sort of little bits. He's not pushing the envelope or push himself to the front, but you're adding this texture. Really, really nice. And then they finish. And then I was about to stop him. I let it run, and I'm glad I did, because the singer makes more of a mess of the radio station's name than I do, which is really refreshing.
Like I said, more of a mess. I was going to be like, that is a John moment right there. I was like, it must be an English thing with KEXP. I don't know.
I don't think you could have been any more English, on that stage right there. And he was apologetic and well done, chaps. Really funny. So
I'm so glad that you didn't stop it before it got to that point, because one of the very small reasons I gave you this was so that you could have strength in numbers there at the end. Goodness, that's great.
And by the end of the song, without really getting much meaning from the lyrics, I got a feeling of sadness and regret. I think perhaps this may be some sort of cautionary tale in terms of the triangle situation. I think they call them thruples now. There was very little joy in the final "Let's Tessellate." It's an interesting term. We actually use it at work, referring to the sort of stacking of palletized goods, how they tessellate within the space. It's very different ways of stacking stuff depending on the packaging and size, etc. It always makes me think of the hexagonal honeycomb structures and beehives tessellation. So overall, I would say this is a really great live performance of alternative folk, which I enjoyed. I thought there was a lot of interesting stuff going on within that. It's something I'll have to go back to understand what's going on, but musically, yeah, it's really nice, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Excellent, man. I'm glad that you did. I hoped that you would. There was a small part of me that's always been sort of niggling at me where it's like, I'm just surprised that you hadn't heard this before because of how English it is and how popular it was 12-ish years ago or some time ago. I'm super glad that it wasn't on your radar, that you weren't super familiar with it, so we could do just this. But it is it does come as a bit of a surprise to me. But hey, such is life. There are plenty of bands that were popular that flew under my radar and that you've brought to my attention. So I guess it shouldn't come as that much of a surprise. But go on, you look like you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, from what I know from them, they did enjoy some success. They may still be doing it. I don't know. But I think they won. I think they won the Mercury Prize. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But at that time, I'm thinking it's like 2010, 12, something like that.
Yeah, it's
It was a while after. It was a while after the sort of Fleet Foxes first came on board, and all the Mumford and Sons and all this stuff. And to be frank, I was a bit sick of it by that point. That sort of old folky stuff. It had my fill of it. I'm ready to move on to something else. And a lot of bands in this country were trying to sound American, which has always been a pet peeve of mine. I don't enjoy that. I'd rather hear some, stick to your own stuff, as it were. The Americans do it fine, develop. There is sort of English folky sounding stuff that you don't know have to put on. That was a big thing about Scottish music as well. For a long time, they dropped their own accent and had a mid-Atlantic accent. A lot of Scottish bands, and it was really sad to hear. And then you get someone like the Proclaimers come along who could not be more Scottish, and it was fantastic. Anyway, that's just my 2 pounds worth.
Fair. Yeah, no, that's completely fine. I can understand your headspace during that time. So yeah, Alt J, they are an English indie rock band formed in 2007 in Leeds. Their lineup includes Joe Newman, guitar, now bass, lead vocals, Tom Sonny Green on drums, Gus Unger Hamilton, keyboards, vocals, and formerly Gwyll Sainsbury. God, Sainsbury. That's the most English sounding name I've ever heard. On guitar and bass, though no, he's obviously no longer with the group. So the tall blonde who is swaying about has departed Alt J. So they started with a name, and please, John, I'm going to reach out to you to correct me if I'm wrong on this one or how to pronounce it correctly. But they started with the name Daljit Dhaliwal after the BBC newsreader and television presenter who the band grew up watching in the 90s. Now, Daljit Dhaliwal, is that how, first of all, are you familiar with that individual? And if so, how off am I on the pronunciation of that name?
Sounds about right. Doesn't ring a bell.
Sure. Okay, great.
There's
That's our
plenty of very interesting names within the news industry at that time. Harry Hill made mention of one or two of them, but no, this one, no.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, sorry, it sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, if there's any folks out there in the listening audience that can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to bastardize this person's name, so good looking out on that. The band then renamed itself to Films, stylized in all caps, but were later forced to change their name because of an already existing American band called The Films. So they took issue with that. And the band's actual name is just this triangular shape symbol, which is the capital Greek letter delta, which is used in mathematics to mean change. On Mac computers, that symbol can be typed by pressing the command key Alt-J, hence the name Alt-J. So then member Gwyll Sainsbury explained this by relating the meaning of change to the renaming happening at a turning point in their lives. The band often makes references to triangles. For example, the song we just listened to, Tessellate, mentions triangles are my favorite shape. And they make triangle symbols with their fingers during concerts, which they say is just due to it being visually appealing shape. Alt J were formed when the members met at the University of Leeds in 2007. In their second year of studies, Newman showed Sainsbury some of his own songs, and the pair began recording on GarageBand in their hall rooms, with Sainsbury acting as producer. The band's sound arose in part from living in a student accommodation where noise had to be kept at a minimum, as well as limited access to instruments. At the time, Green used a very limited drum kit, Unger Hamilton a cheap keyboard, and Newman an acoustic guitar. After graduating, the band moved to Cambridge, where they spent several months working on their music before signing a deal with Infectious Music in December of 2011. Their self-titled 4-track demo EP was recorded with producer Charlie Andrew in London and featured the tracks Breeze Blocks, which is probably one that I'm going to give to you in the future, Handmade, Matilda, and this track, Tessellate. A 7-inch single containing Blood Flood and Tessellate was released by Loud and Quiet in October of 2011. Their first 2012 release for Infectious Music was the triangle-shaped 10-inch Matilda / Fitz Pleasure, another great song by them. It was followed by Breeze Blocks, which preceded their first album. Their debut album, An Awesome Wave, was released in May 2012 in Europe and in September of 2012 in the United States, and it won the 2012 British Mercury Prize, as you mentioned earlier, and in 2013 was named Album of the Year at the Ivor Novello Awards. The title is a reference to a quote from the 1991 Bret Easton Ellis novel American Psycho and the 2000 film of the same name. Their producer, Charlie Andrews, said that the band's sound was heavily influenced by unusual instrument choices, including drummer Tom Green's decision not to use cymbals. We've talked about this before and with other bands, but it is an interesting decision nonetheless. Andrew told Sound on Sound, the only slightly cymbal-like thing he uses in the back is the back end of a saucepan, which he uses for the hi-hat. The album's drums were recorded first, followed by bass guitar and other instruments. Green's drumming was always recorded to a click track because Andrew wanted it to have the precision of electronic drums. This is great to hear because every time I've ever recorded with a band, this is always the process that we went through. Drummer with a click track, then bass, then guitar, then vocals. I think it's the best way to get that precision that he alluded to in that quote. So in November of 2012, the band was announced as the winners of the Mercury Prize for their album. Besides the prize money, the band saw an increase in their profile, resulting in An Awesome Wave reaching number 13 on the UK albums charts. The band would later describe the event as life-changing. There was a sense of being imposters, that the band had somehow got this far without being a real band. We're just guys from Leeds who muddled through it and magicked a Mercury Award. I love the idea of turning magic into a verb. I magicked this. The album received favorable reviews and was described as a captivating blend of insatiable grooves and profound poignancy by The Guardian's Paul Lester. Jenny Stevens of The NME felt that the charm of Alt J's musical scatterbrain is that it works, describing the album as on the surface smart alt pop, while noting that the band have messed with the formula just enough to make this a brilliantly disquieting debut, and that in refusing to submit to the rigors of a genre, they might just have made themselves masters of their own. Andy Bayer of Music OMH praised the band's ability to mix different musical styles and instruments on the album without coming off as forced or overcomplicated. Similarly, the BBC's Music's Jen Long wrote that An Awesome Wave spans every workable idea, genre, and influence that can be crammed under the guitar music umbrella, yet it never feels disorientating. And called it an entirely comprehensible and accessible collection of beautiful pop songs. Ruth Singleton of Drowned in Sound described An Awesome Wave as a beautifully rounded, awesome debut album, and said that whatever Alt J were aiming for with their debut album, they have managed to prove their value as talented musicians, literary enthusiasts, and imagery aficionados. Joe Zeta of Clash praised the band as young yet somehow void of naivety. And John O'Brien of AllMusic felt that the album was occasionally guilty of pretentiousness, but that its eclectic arrays of sound are woven together in a manner so effortlessly that the result never feels forced or contrived. So let's get into these lyrics. Bite chunks out of me. You're a shark, and I'm swimming. My heart still thumps as I bleed, and all your friends come sniffing. Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. Toe to toe, back to back, let's go. My love, it's very late. Till morning comes, let's tessellate. Go alone, my flower, and keep my whole lovely you. Wild green stones, alone, my lover, and keep us on my heart. 3 guns and 1 goes off. One's empty, one's not quick enough. 1 burn, 1 red, 1 grin. Search the graves while the camera spins. Chunks of you will sink down to seals, blubber rich in mourning. They'll nosh you up, yes, they'll nosh the love away. But it's fair to say you will still haunt me. Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. Toe to toe, back to back, let's go. My love, it's very late. Till morning comes. Let's tessellate. So, according to Alt J frontman Joe Newman, this minimal, ominous track was written about the lingering of an old flame and the physical intimacy shared with that particular individual. Others have also suggested that the song touches on the idea of moving away from one love whilst trying to build something new with another. It is often interpreted as a metaphor for a love triangle and sexual intimacy, drawing on the geometric concept of shapes fitting together without gaps. The lyrics describe a man who is simultaneously trying to get over one woman while being intimate with another. This is connected to the math term by using lines like triangles are my favorite shape and 3 points where 2 lines meet, as well as the phrase toe to toe, back to back. Let's go, my love, it's late. Till morning comes, let's tessellate, suggesting the physical fitting together of 2 or maybe 3 people. In early 2014, Gwillem Sainsbury left the band, claiming he never really enjoyed the lifestyle and success. Keyboardist Gus Unger Hamilton said he believed Sainsbury was almost opposed to being successful as a band in a way, and that he thought the industry goings on were bullshit, then adding, we definitely would feel the same way as him on occasion. Their second album, This Is All Yours, was released on the 22nd of September 2014 and went straight to #1 in the United Kingdom. In June 2017, the band released their third album, Relaxer, followed in February 2022 by their fourth studio album, The Dream. And that's where they currently stand, I do believe. And there's some other great tracks on their subsequent albums, but I do think I may give you Breeze Blocks, which is on the same album as this one sometime, probably in 2026 at this point. So, but thank you so much for giving this a listen. I'm glad that you liked the performance and the song. I can understand about, getting the vocals not being the clearest, and yet there's some added bit of mystery to that. And I also think that the gents' vocals are so wonderfully complementary of one another. I don't know if they worked on that or if that was a natural happy accident, but the airy nature of them sounds almost at times like it's the same voice, just in a slightly higher octave, particularly between the keyboardist and the lead vocalist in this band. So yeah, it's a lovely marriage of very complementary voices that they've got going on here. So glad that you enjoyed this one, man. Really appreciate your time. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And in the write-ups and that you've gone on about, they tend to jump from genre to genre, do they?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, yeah. Not everything is as folksy. I think this performance also really leans into that folksy nature as well. But yeah, they do a bit of genre jumping, as the critics were quick to note.
Yeah, I think you sometimes find with live performances that bands accentuate whatever sort of leanings they have at the time,
Yeah.
that become a bit more folksy than they would do on the studio version or whatever. So yeah, which makes them interesting versions to
Yeah,
use for as well.
and that's a fair assessment of this. It isn't a drastic change from the record version or anything like that, but it is. They do lean into it a bit and
Emphasis.
have a little bit more, yeah, artistic carte blanche with manipulating the sound and giving it a different feel in this live performance. So
Cool.
thanks again for giving this one a go, John. We'll be revisiting these guys again, like I said, sometime down the line. Folks out there in the listening audience, please let us know what your thoughts are on Alt J and this track Tessellate. And feel free to shout out any other tracks by them or other artists that we should check out. We'll add it to our ever-growing list for our Friday episodes devoted to songs you guys suggest. Please also like, share, and or subscribe if you haven't done any or all of those things. It goes a long way to help us here at the channel and only costs you guys a couple clicks. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.